let you sit down. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this. You're at PAX, and this is now a thing. This is an incredibly wide room. It's like a 16:9 ratio of humans. It's amazing.
If proof was needed that Matt is an AV nerd.
Yeah, we got to sit. We messed up with these microphones very recently, so we have to be like careful. Anyway, hello. We'll shut up and sit down. Well, some of us. Paul's not here because he can't leave Canada. He's not allowed. It's true.
That's not a joke. It's not even the smallest part of a joke. And I've just noticed in my peripheral vision there is a massive Quinns.
He can't see you. I don't think he can see you. It's not real.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shut Up and Sit Down, a podcast all about board games, card games, all the games you can play in your very own house. And this week, the city of Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Is anyone here from Philadelphia? Who's here? Yeah? A lot of people.
6 people.
16 people. I've had a great time in the city. We did some tourist stuff on the first day we got here. We went to prison. Quinns took me to a prison, and it was really it was amazing. He was so happy.
We were on a tour bus going through all the stops. It was hop on, hop off, and we passed a massive prison, and the bus stopped, and I went, man, let's get off. Because we heard that Steve Buscemi does the audio tour of the penitentiary here, and yeah, some applause there. Some applause. Steve Buscemi's in the house, everybody.
It's great. If you have time to go to prison before you leave Philadelphia, then do. That's what I say.
Yeah, it was a prison. It was the first prison founded in America with reform. Also, the first building in America with modern plumbing. Also in Philadelphia, the first building in America built by a female architect. And it's pretty dope. And then it's got all these crazy angles because it's designed so that every single apartment in it gets exactly the same amount of light.
We thought that was really cool.
Yeah, we thought it was great. Other good things about Philadelphia include a food market where you can buy all kinds of crazy stuff. Like a chocolate onion.
Chocolate onion.
Sorry, 1 second, Matt.
No. Oh, you.
Who wants to? So we don't have any jingles. We don't have jingles on our actual podcast, but we especially don't have them today because we're live. So we're going to be singing them live today. We're going to be vibing it. So
this thing, right? I saw these, and it's like it's an onion covered in chocolate for those of you at home, but it's not even. It's still got the skin on it.
No. I had a conversation with the girl. So they have to leave the skin where the chocolate doesn't meet because otherwise the onion would go stale.
Sure.
So the skin is missing under the chocolate. Anyway, jingle. Who wants to see Matt eat an onion? Onions covered in chocolate. Everybody.
This is it.
Onion, 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 onion. Hurry up, hurry up. Take the paper off faster. Hurry up, this crowd cut. There you go.
It has still got the skin on there. It's just an onion covered in chocolate. What is wrong with you?
That's gross.
I told you it was just an onion covered in chocolate. What do you think it was? If you're listening to this is a podcast about board games.
That's really disgusting.
That's horrible. Why would they do that? What is wrong with you, Philadelphia?
Okay. So, would someone yell? We bought it. She's got a point.
Yeah. They saw us coming and they dipped onions in chocolate.
Okay, so let's. We got some side some side quests we can do on this podcast.
We've got some exciting stuff, Peter. I'm just going to come up and say this outright. Like we've.
Oh wait, are you going to reveal it?
No, I'm not going to reveal it. I'm just going to say that, like, for us, when we come to conventions, even with this one, where we try to be resolute with ourselves this time. We're just going to try and have a nice time, play some games, talk to people, chill out, and then we have we always get the fear whenever we come to conventions because we feel like we have to find and play some interesting things here so we can then talk about them. And sometimes it's a real it's a real struggle, and you're like, oh god, next game, next. But we found some crackers today, so we've got some really exciting stuff coming on this podcast. I'm excited to talk about stuff.
Just as we approach the end of 2018, I found a game at this very convention that is a candidate for my game of the year. But you'll have to sit and listen to us talk about podcasts for 30 minutes before we talk about board games. Before we get to that, so we begin our first feature. Everybody, who here likes board games? Are you going to throw that chocolate onion into the audience? Like rock and roll?
I just need it out of my peripheral vision.
The fact that all the audience are like, no!
I have thrown onions at people at live shows before. It's not
Matt's other podcast.
It's not a habit I should do.
Okay, so Matt, do you want to give this jingle a sing with me?
Yeah, so Quinns has just written names of jingles down, and I have to come up with them.
No, you don't. We're going to sing them together.
Oh, okay.
Okay, right? Card games that made us feel bad.
That was better than I was expecting. I thought we were going to go for the Somewhere Over the Rainbow there.
Oh, card games that make us feel bad.
It's a real
shame.
No,
because these games are actually all pretty good. They just made us feel bad.
Oh, my word.
So there's a recurring theme. First off, let's talk about Capital Lux, which this is really more of a story about my jet lag than anything else.
This is the thing, like when we review games, hopefully what we aim to do is to put out videos or writing or whatever, and to be like, to project the enthusiasm or the critique that we want to, but you forget that before we do that, we need to break through so many layers of just sometimes not having a great time, which is hilarious for different reasons. And sometimes we're just not having a great time as other humans don't, just because we're really tired.
Yeah.
And Quinns was really, really tired as we tried to play a card game called Capital Lux.
Yep, Capital Lux, really quite interesting game. The gist of it is vague. You're all sort of in space, and there's a capital city. None of you like it, and you all have your own town. Essentially, there are 4 colors of cards, 4 colors of colonists with different numbers. So if I play a green 2, that's fine, so long as the capital at the end of the round has more green than my town. Because if my town has more green than the capital comes and apparently murders everyone in my town.
To be clear, it's one of these games where it kind of has a theme, but it's just like, look, you're doing stuff with cards with numbers on, and it's maybe in space. It's like that for me was just not a thing at all. But like, it was kind of like playing blackjack with other people, of trying to get as close as you can to the current mark, but the mark might change. And
it's blackjack instead of trying to go under 21, it's under whatever your dickhead friends have decided. And there are secret modifier cards, so you can be like, oh, I'm under 18, which is fine. Then it's your friend secretly played a -3.
But it was really smart, and it has a ton of
in
things.
the back of the head.
Yeah, of being like, you can bump the number down to cause other people problems. You can have secret modifiers, so one player knows that actually the number you're aiming for is higher or lower than it appears to be. Yeah. And on the second game round, I started to realize there was a lot to do in terms of how careful you are with your hands. It's quite hard to describe because it's really abstract.
Yeah, it's quite abstract. We had an interesting thing with this game is Capital Lux, one more time, where really there's very few pieces of art. The different colors of cards are just for people. And that was the only art assets. So like, it really, how much do we like the art came down to sort of, Matt just really liked these people. And I'm like, I don't like these people. Which was like a really pathetic reason to not like the art of a game, but there wasn't much else to go on.
It was bizarre. We ended up having like a slightly grumpy argument on whether or not the art in this game was good or not, after we just spent like the whole day like going around like the Museum of Art and talking about how subjective it was. What do you think about this Mondrian? Oh, it makes me feel nothing. Oh, I find it quite... And then we go back and say, well, I think the art in this is bad. Well, I think it's good. And then that being the basis of an argument. It was a moment of madness.
Yeah, however, Capital Lux, which we'll move on from, because we don't have that much to say about it, but... Oh, my goodness.
I'm looking forward to playing more of it, yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing you talk about Hanamikoji.
Oh, man, that game.
I was teaching some applause there, scattered applause from Mr. Hanamikoji in the audience. I was teaching a room full of people to play Flamme Rouge and Mysterium last night, which was fun, but someone was there. Nice, there you go. And that was great because you teach a room full of people to play Mysterium and they all start playing. And then, like, within about 15 minutes, at least one person from each table is stood over the table like this.
Yeah.
Like, just to look vertically down on the cards. So that was nice.
People got really into it, yeah.
While I was teaching these games, Matt was playing Hanamikoji, and occasionally I'd take breaks to go back to the room. And Matt and our friend Ben were sort of sat at the table, both frowning at this very small, simple card game, and me being like, how is it? And Matt being like, it makes you feel terrible.
It's the strangest thing, and it's actually kind of like the reverse. Like Quinns had the experience with when he was playing Capital Lux of like, clearly it's a good game, but he just, sometimes it's a combination of tiredness, or maybe just your brain doesn't quite work in the exact way that the game wants it to, that you think, this is good, but it's like, it's hurting me to do it, and...
I've never had that with a board game before. It was pretty unique.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain the theme?
Oh, Hanamikoji is basically, I believe you run restaurants, but there's no restaurants in it. There's 7 geisha, I believe.
It's set in feudal Japan.
Approximately 7 geisha. And you have to win their favor by putting cards down. And that's basically it. But you're trying to win the favor of the majority of them.
By giving them gifts, right? Like there's one geisha who likes umbrellas.
Yes.
And so by the end of the game, she's been bought 17 umbrellas.
I have another umbrella for you. Will you go to dinner at my restaurant? It's weird. Like, I mean, thematically, again, it's like you're trying to tempt somebody to come to dinner in your restaurant with umbrellas.
Sure, you're tempting them to come and work in the restaurant.
That makes more sense. I don't listen when people are doing the kind of like theme bits of the... I want the theme to come out in the game, and for me it was a game of love and umbrellas, but now you point out it's not, that makes more sense. Anyway, basically in this game it's very simple. You have a small hand of cards, you have 4 things you can do, and each round you both do all 4 things. And then that's the end of the round. You see who has the most cards on each side, because you all have, you've got 3 umbrellas, oh, he's got 2 umbrellas. That means I've won the geisha's favor because I gave her 1 more umbrella. Anyone, regardless of sexuality, umbrellas, guys, just get on it. More umbrellas, just keep giving umbrellas.
All the women in the house go crazy for umbrellas.
That was the most pathetic, half-hearted. Okay.
We're doing this because you asked us to. I don't feel strongly about umbrellas.
Parasols, though, right? Woo! Yeah, slightly more marginally. Anyway,
who remembers giving Eris the parasol in Final Fantasy VII? One person. We're talking after the podcast.
So, you've got these 4 things you can do, right? And some of them involve you using lots of your cards. Some of them involve just using 1 or 2. But it's horrible because basically, like, every single thing you can do, you don't want to do yet. at all points of the game. Like, the one thing you can do that's good is you can be like, this card in my hand, I definitely want this. So I'll put it to one side and I'll put a thing on it and I definitely get it at the end. That's a nice little action you can do. The rest of them are all bad. But then the problem is you think, well, I'll do that first. But then you're choosing the card you get at the end of the round before you really know what the round looks like.
Oh, so theoretically you should do the bad things first.
Yeah. So the other things you can do is like, just get rid of the 2 cards in your hand. But which ones do you want to get rid of? Because you don't know what it's going to look like yet. And then by the end of the round, you're like, well, I don't want to get rid of these. I've only got 3 cards. I've got to get rid of 2 of them. This is a nightmare.
The other action I saw you doing that you looked in physical pain from was you take your hand of cards, divide it into 2 piles, and your opponent just takes one of them?
Yeah, it's two sets of 2 cards, and then they choose one, right? And another one where you give them 3 cards, they choose 1, and then you get the other 2. Which is really, that mechanic is really neat. It's like probably my favorite mechanic in Ladies and Gentlemen, which is probably the mechanic that was like the strongest point in the game, was the idea of being like, please buy this thing and not this thing, and trying to tease people towards doing one thing and not the other and seeing if it works.
Yeah.
But when the whole game is that, it's just like, you constantly have a hand of cards and you think, well, I need all of these, but then which ones am I going to give them? And yeah, it was funny because it was clearly a really good game. It was really elegant. It was really neat. The art's wonderful. But there was not a single point of it that wasn't stressful. There was no point that you did something.
You never smiled.
No.
For the duration
there was no point when you did something and thought, yeah. And actually, the only time when you felt mildly happy was when you did something that was a non-choice. And a couple of times, me and the guy I was playing with, Ben Kutcher, was like, we both did the same thing at one point of just being like, pick one of these 3 cards, and all 3 cards were the same card. Because that was the only, it wasn't even like you felt good, it was just a moment of peace, where you're like, I know what's going to happen here. And it's I don't know if that's going to be good or not, but yeah, it was just intensely stressful. And I found myself just being like, this is clearly quite good, but I don't know what kind of person would play it for pleasure.
Yeah, you were saying that you could not imagine someone being like, well, this is my favorite game.
Yeah, like, unless you are literally somebody who just enjoys watching other people squirm constantly. Yeah? Chocolate-covered onion people, yeah. The sort of people who make chocolate-covered onions, maybe. But it seems harsh, because it's not a bad game. It's just like, Actually, the observation I had towards the end was the fact that like there's a lot of things with video games. The fact that sometimes you play a video game and you're like, oh, this game's great, but then the more you play video games, the more you have an understanding of how they're made. I find myself increasingly being like, is this game fun, or is it just specifically designed to tickle the part of my brain that tells me I'm excited? And with this, it kind of felt like the game was constantly stressful, which was kind of telling my brain that the game was exciting, but it's like, is it exciting, or is it just stressful?
Yeah, well, we've got another game like that later on. The third and final card game that made us feel bad is Plums. Plums from Crash Games. What's up?
Now, Plums was on that was when I hit my rock bottom, I think. I had.
Yeah, Matt bottomed out during Plums. Plums is a game. You put the cards out, and it looks like it's like Cones of Dunshire, the card game, because you put the cards out, and then most of the cards have pictures of fruit on them. There's a deck of cards with like pie on, and I was like, oh, that makes sense, but not like pie you eat, like pie the mathematical symbol.
Yeah. And then there's a dog.
But then you take the dog card and you flip it over, and on the reverse of the dog card is the same card with a different dog.
So you've got the dog card.
There are 3 decks, one with butterflies, one with caterpillars, one with...
It's bizarre. I mean, it's all tied together to do with, mathematical...
A particular I think German maybe, mathematician who, we're almost certainly wrong about that, who did a lot of work with pi and then detecting mathematical signs in nature.
Is it a Fibonacci thing? I don't know. Anyway, it's maths, animals, fruit. The whole world is just atoms.
Really makes you think.
I'm saying this as if I didn't like it. I actually really liked it.
So
it was really
very
cool.
simply, this is a trick-taking game where players, in order, have to play numbered cards from their hand. So, like, you play a 7 orange, and I play a 19 cherry, and all these cards appear in the shop. And then the person who played the highest number gets first pick of the cards. But in addition to the number and the fruit, the cards have special powers.
Yeah.
So it's like, that 1 orange will give me 5 victory points, so I'll take that. But then you're also building sets.
Or a card that gives you 3 slices of the mathematical equation pi.
Are we going to be able to describe this in a way that makes any sense?
I mean, it is very Cones of Dunshire, as you says. It's like, I found it bemusing in the fact that we didn't... I remember there was a point towards the end of the first round where none of us really had any idea what was going on. To the point where I was like, Quinns, you've still got all this fruit in front of you you haven't done sets with. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, the second round isn't fruit, it's insects. So all that fruit is going to be useless. And you were like, what? But it's just because I got confused because the card backs for the second round had insects on them. And it's like, no, there's no reason for that. It's just...
more fruit.
There's just more fruit. And I was like, what's going on? What is this game?
So that's Plums from Crash Games.
I mean, it was really good.
It was actually really strong. It's my favorite of the 3 cards.
I couldn't work out how to do it, and every time I'm like, maybe this is a good move, and it was just, it was terrible.
So yeah, honestly, quite a strong trick-taking game that we enjoyed quite a bit. Matt, I feel bad for making you eat that chocolate orange, so I've got one more thing.
Was it chocolate garlic? That sounds good, actually.
From the same shop. In the words of Brad Pitt from 7... What's in the box? Yeah, the audience know it. What's in the box? What's in the box?
This is like the worst advent calendar I've ever had.
What's in the box?
Oh my word.
It's a chocolate nose.
It's a chocolate nose. And it's not that dissimilar to my nose.
That's true. I didn't know that when I bought it. But what could be inside the chocolate nose? For the people at home, Matt has dropped the chocolate in horror. Let's bite into it.
It's not a nose.
Find out.
It's not my nose.
What's in the nose?
You haven't cloned me. Cut off my clone's nose and covered it in chocolate.
It's amazing what you can get in the Philadelphia
market. If you
market.
have, I quit. Because that's a step too far.
He's taking a bite, ladies and gents. It was just chocolate. Full marks for bravery, though. Okay, Matt, with a mouthful of food, are you ready to sing this next jingle?
And chocolate is like the worst thing for public speaking
really
as well.
Gums you up.
Yeah, really bad. Sure, let's sing the song.
Do you want to sing this to the tune of Toto's Africa? The chorus?
Yeah. No, we should build up to it. No, actually, no.
What? That's not how it goes.
Euro games that were actually quite good.
Euro
Games that were actually quite good. Sorry.
One person in the audience enjoyed it. It's
I've
good.
got chocolate in my mouth.
It went out to that one person. Scattered applause. Never felt more pitied by an audience. Hey.
Like, there's no one within a 10-foot radius of me clapping. I bet. You know?
Okay, so people might be aware, Renegade Games are a publisher who made Clank, and they made a truly awesome trick-taking game, which we'll be covering on the site soon, called Fox in the Forest. We picked up a new game from them and just played it, called Pie Town. Pie Town looks, for all intents and purposes, like a children's Euro game. And I tell you what, I can't swear on this podcast, but it's fudging not. It is a game about running pie shops. How am I going to describe this in a way that means it doesn't sound childish? So all your workers are dice. So you can send them to bake pies or collect ingredients from the orchard or to upgrade your restaurant or hire new workers. But different tasks will make them better or worse at their job.
Yeah, so the dice you roll to different sides to be like this.
So yeah,
size.
if you go and bake pies for 70 years, then you end up being a 6.
Yeah,
and
it's
you can
like real
do
life.
anything.
If you bake pies or go and pick fruit, then you become a more valuable worker. But you do anything else, then you get worse.
Yeah. If you want to hire another worker, you have to go into the office, and then when you emerge from the office, your
weak.
hands have withered. And you can't hold the pie pan anymore.
It's because you basically summon new pie workers into
It's basically asexual reproduction, yeah. You make a homunculus.
Yeah, a homunculus pie man. Or lady. It doesn't make a difference. It's still weird.
So, yeah, however, this is a really cool thing. So there are different ingredients in the orchard, and the orchard is a hex grid. So maybe I send my worker out, and he goes between these 3 hexes, and then I can scoop up ingredients from the hexes. I might get an apple, might get a banana, but I'm trying to get the ingredients for my secret recipe. Everyone has a secret recipe, which is put in a cardboard box. And here's the really cool thing. So when you bake pies, every pie requires 3 ingredients. So you might throw out 9 ingredients and go, I'm making 2 normal pies and my secret pie. And then the secret pie goes on the scoring track, and everyone knows that within those 9 ingredients are your thing. And you all have something out of Sherlock Holmes' Consultant Detective, a little erasable pad with which to scratch out ingredients and zero in on pie recipes. And those workers in the orchard, if they're low, if they're like the little weakling workers, you can send your experienced workers to spy on them.
Yeah. It's really nice in the fact that whenever you hire new people, they're kind of useless, and you're like, well, what can I do to get them better? And
I'll send them into the outside world.
Outside, you can go to the market and sell some of our pies, or you can go and pick some fruit. And it's like this new worker's has somebody, okay, hello. It's like, oh, I just got a job at the pie. That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. What sort of things do they put in their pies? Well, specifically. And I mean, that's what I did. I just expanded really fast. I was like,
you expanded. You had a whole host of interns, and none of them were allowed outside. The padlock on the door.
No, they went out, and then you guys just stole all of my pie secrets.
Yeah.
But then I was just like, I don't care. I don't care. Know my secrets. Make my secret pies. I was sort of taking the Walmart approach. I was just filling all the shops with my pies, having an endless supply of, 4 workers who were just constantly churning out these fruit pies. And everyone's like, we know the secret of your pies. And it's like, no one cares. But no, it was lovely. The whole secret recipe thing is kind of a gimmick. It doesn't really make a huge difference, although there's a fun bit at the end where you have to guess what somebody's pie recipe is on that other players, because you're kind of doing the deduction and watching, and you're like, was it this, this, and this? And if you're right, you get points.
Yep.
It's not like a much of a game winner sort of thing. It's not a huge amount of points.
No.
But it was I really enjoyed it.
It was actually really, really pleasant. It was a wonderful example of, having truly, a really accessible theme, really lovely accessible art, but underneath it all, a game with pincers. And it was the best Euro game for how simple it is that I think I've played in a long, long time.
It kind of reminded me, it's not actually like Machikoro, but it felt like a Euro-y Machikoro in the fact that it had this wonderfully charming, easy, accessible presentation. A game with all the rules very clearly kind of with symbols on the board. You can just start playing. It was very simple. And what I love most about it, to be honest, was it was interesting, had lots of interesting choices about what to do, but even though we were day 2 of a con, blood sugar getting a bit wobbly and all that, I did not have analysis paralysis at all. It did not have that thing where you get to the end of the game and last few turns, you're ugh. But it also didn't have that thing of being it's 2 turns from the end and I've done nothing. You know? It was like, it was a quick game, but I felt like I made some pies, I did some stuff, and then it ended and it wasn't stressful.
Yeah, it was really, really
which
nice.
Is rare.
And Renegade's continuing to basically impress us. Like, publishers really do sort of rise and fall in our estimation because really good publishers who care tend to routinely put out really good stuff. Very quickly, because I do want to move on to our game of the show, we're going to talk about Altiplano. Anyone here played Orléans? The lovely, okay, well, Orléans got a bigger applause than we did. That was, no, it was, that sounded incredibly snide. I like Orléans, and it's really good. Moving on. So the thing with Orléans and its now successor, Altiplano, we'll stick with Altiplano, but it's a bag building game.
Yeah.
You are a guy in Peru, and you might have Peruvian things like alpacas and blankets.
It's disappointing because it's set in Peru and you make blankets and you have like alpacas and lots of...
You'll go fishing and go into the mountains.
But obviously, like unlike Orleans, which was bravely a Euro game set in a kind of Renaissance France sort of era, like an old-fashioned European setting, which we don't see enough of. This, being Peruvian, just felt a little bit trite. There's just hundreds of Peruvian themed Euro games out there, so thematically, okay, fine.
Like, oh, what are we doing? Oh, trading alpacas.
More alpacas.
Great.
Jesus. But I really liked it.
It was really good. It was absolutely better than Orléans. It felt like the sort of caverna to Orléans Agricole. Really, if you've not played these games, they are kind of worker placement games with a tremendous amount of flexibility. So you'll have like your 10 resources. For me, it was like 9 fish and a 10th thing that I'd forgotten because I was pursuing a fish-focused strategy.
You were like
Didn't
not
work.
sustainably doing that. Like.
No, I actually ended the game because I emptied a lake, and then it's like, you kind of assume that after that game ended, everyone had to leave the area.
Yeah, this weird thing, like whenever you're playing like any kind of Euro, you have this sense of a lot of the time there's not that much like interaction between players, and sometimes that's fine, sometimes it's not. This one was one that didn't have a huge amount of interaction at all, to be honest. Mostly just doing our own things, occasionally having moments of somebody else snatching something just before you got it, typical fare. But in this, it was kind of funny because the different locations were not just like anywhere. They were kind of in a circle, and you could move between them. It kind of felt more like a place, like a little island.
Kind of did, or up a mountain or wherever.
Yeah, but it meant that in my head, it was this weird thing of we were these 5 villagers living in this place, all doing entirely different things, and basically not really ever talking to each other. And it's like, I was like, mine a bit of stone, cut down some trees, and then turn around, and it's just like, oh my God, that guy is like, caught all of the fish in the sea. It's like someone's gonna word with this guy. He's just like, more fish, more fish. It's like, is he all right?
You had so many blankets, and occasionally I would look over and I would just see you swaddled in 19 blankets and have no idea what you were doing.
You were filling a warehouse with fish, and we're like, they don't even keep. You can't just putting fish on shelves. It's like, is he okay?
Yeah, there's a lot of nice mechanics in it, but essentially it's a worker placement game where you're not necessarily... If you get a fish, you don't put the fish in a farm to turn it into food because everything requires multiple resources, which means that like if you draw 8 symbols out the bag on a turn, you might have too much wood in your bag, but that's okay because you put like 1 wood on every spot that requires wood. You're like half building a house, half building a canoe.
Because you can do it later. You're like, oh, go.
And then it gets it out of your bag. So it's like a deck building game where rather than like you kind of put things into play. And then you forget about them, and then you can't get them back off easily.
It's great in the fact that it is basically like your resources are just a deck. So it is deck building, but rather than it being that thing of being like, well, I'm going to get all these resources and build up my deck, and then, oh, I don't want these things, so I'm going to remove them. You still can permanently remove things by putting them in the warehouse, but you've also got that limbo of being like, well, I don't want it right now, so I'm just going to shift it into kind of like deck limbo, and then when I need it again, I can pull it back in. But then it's that point of you being like, why don't I have any food? And it's like, I left it all in the alpaca farm. And they're just like, I don't even want to go to the alpaca farm.
Yeah, really, really
I don't even
nice.
like those guys.
I like the alpaca token, but they didn't, I like how they looked.
It kind of had like a really weird, like kind of light Feast for Odin sort of thing of like this idea of like making a little thing, get some wool, make a blanket, sell the blanket, except it's a weird economy in which you sell a blanket and then you steal it back again and sell it again over and over again. Like I had 3 blankets and I made a mint.
That was a thing.
A lot of cold people in town.
They teach you how trade contracts work, and it's like, you get a contract and then you put like the resources like glass on it. And then I'm like, oh, do you lose the glass? It's like, no. So it's like, what happened? Are we coaxing people here?
I arrived to this game like really late, and they'd already had the rules explanation. And I got given a really kind of, and it was fine. And it was like, okay. But then I was just looking at the boards, and I was like, this game doesn't make any sense. It's like you have to spend an alpaca and some food to get a food. I was just like, this is terrible economics. But it was fine.
It was good. Let's move on to something we are so excited to talk about. Let's move on to, how are we going to sing this?
Ba, 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 ba. It's a game of the show. I really can't sing today.
It's because I'm accompanying you. All right, everybody, the best game we have played in a long time is here. It's at the convention. You can play it. It is the only booth with a queue at PAX Unplugged, and it is Fog of Love, okay? You guys might not have played this.
The fact there's not that many claps is awesome, because now we're going to tell you about this. And there's going to be some people here who are just going to go, you know what, that's not for me. But I hope a lot of people here will be like, woo.
Yeah, okay, so I've even got notes on this because we interviewed the designer. It is, okay, well, where do you start? First, maybe you start with the fact that we sat down to play this at 9 p.m. and played it drinking beers until 2 a.m. And
yeah.
we're like jet-lagged to... we also were doing this while crying laughing and being moved.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, you know, we find games funny quite a lot, especially if it's thematic or there's room for silliness or the card art doesn't quite make sense and it's just like, oh, this is funny. But this wasn't just funny. It was like, it was emotional.
Yeah, it's also the most adult board game we have ever played. Like, there are board games where it's like, oh, this is edgy, we're going to play Penny for My Thoughts and we're all going to talk about torture. This is like, this is capital A adult. This is like literature adult.
It's grown up. And it's grown up because it's like, it's not just something that like, yeah, if you know, kids probably shouldn't play it. Like, there's not like really anything bad in it, but it's like, kids wouldn't really enjoy it.
Kids wouldn't understand,
you know, like they wouldn't get it. They wouldn't get anything out of it.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's no exaggeration to say that like, finally we have the equivalent of like a board game so adult and intense that you don't want to put it in front of kids just because they wouldn't get it, which I've never experienced before. So let's actually get more concrete.
Sure.
So Fog of Love is essentially a Euro game where, for 2 players, where you manage a relationship. Okay, so...
I don't think it's a Euro game at all.
No, it's like that's the nearest point that you could get board gamers, right? It's not really a Euro game. It is a game where you kind of sketch out a rough character. The character is not you. In my first game, I was a... You were a TV star called David.
You know, I don't even remember your name, which says a lot about David.
Barry.
Yeah, see, that says so much about David, though, right? David doesn't really even, like, David was not a pleasant man. He wasn't a bad man, but he wasn't a pleasant man.
So during character creation, you get a few cards which are assigned to you by the other player. So David noticed that Barry was short. That was very charitable of you.
Muscular.
Muscular and...
Stoned.
Stoned. Also, my occupation was criminal, which made us both laugh. But we had this idea that we met at a party. But also, you have a sort of Scrabble-like plastic thing in which you put cards in front of you. And these cards are your character's like inner world. It's their traits. And they are completely secret for the whole game. So you start, like, this is why it models a real relationship, because you start and it's like, oh, I was attracted to David because, like, oh, he's a TV star, he has a booming voice, he has bedroom eyes. That's great, but I didn't know, you were like a manipulative, cynic, like what?
Right, so, I mean, basically, this was wonderful. You start character creation by taking 5 of these traits, and they basically determine, like, your needs as a character.
Yeah, it's what you need to do to essentially end up happy.
And it's ostensibly the way that the game sort of works is a bit like The Sims in terms of, like, on a very basic level. But rather than being like, hey, hunger, or like, how clean are you? How clean are you? Are you clean enough? I don't know. It's like, you know, specific things like, do you need to be like determined in your life, or do you need to be like relaxed? Are you like sensitive?
Are you spiritual?
Are you spiritual, like, or not? And basically, like, your idea, your aim of the game is to try and match who you are.
Well, it can be.
Well, no, I think it is. I mean, we can talk about that in a minute. But basically, yeah, you get these, and this was the first game we played. The cards I drew of the 5 that I kept, it was a bit close to the bone. And as well, it said in the manual a few times after we got this point, it was like, give this character another name. This is not you. It kept being like, this isn't you. Don't use your name. It does say, don't use your name. It's like, because it's not about that. But I was cocky, insecure, and a perfectionist. And at this point already, I was a beer in and thinking, is this game going to cut me so close to the bone that I cry? And the answer was no, but yeah.
So there's a couple of mechanics worth explaining, but essentially, as you work your way through the relationship, which is of a fixed length, you have a hand of cards which are possible scenes or secrets or places or responses. And you take turns playing cards. And these have 3 decks, which very elegantly are sweet, serious, and drama. And you're pushed sort of between the 3 decks. So initially it's a honeymoon period where it's like the cards are like, hey, what are we going to have? Oh, the first card in David and Barry's relationship was, I'm going to make you breakfast in bed. And it was, each card often gives options. So it's like, which of these things do you want? Often both players choose. And the central thing in Fog of Love is you both have big, nice, heavy, this is a beautiful game, by the way.
Yeah.
Heavy chips with A, B, C, D. You choose your response. So we heard it's like, I'm going to make you breakfast. And it was what you wanted.
And then what he made.
Yeah. So, but then already, immediately, you're into second guessing because it's not just, you're not just trying to match up because your choices affect the sliders, the personality sliders, which are affected by your traits. So for example, if I was a workaholic, which is hilarious because I was a criminal.
Criminals work hard too, all right?
Yeah, I was stressed out of my mind.
That's the real thing.
I had to, at the end of the game, have made enough choices that pushed me into the determined as opposed to disorganized.
Yeah.
But that meant, so like, in a lot of your choices, it's not just, oh, we should match. But even matching is hard because it's like, even from that very first breakfast card, it's like, well, I know what I would make him, but what does he want?
Yeah.
And then what did you expect? What did you want? And so,
well, I wanted kind of like a brioche.
You wanted something so fancy.
Brioche. I think it was it was creme caramel, like creme caramel waffles or something like that. I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Like in bed. I mean, how luxurious would that be, right? I'm gonna have a vote in this in a minute. And what he made me was like poached eggs with
fresh
like some
strawberries.
fresh fruit and fresh strawberries. What would you? If you rather have poached eggs and fresh fruit, put your hand up. If you rather have like creme caramel waffles in bed, yeah, come on, guys. But the thing is, already, one of the things we forgot to mention is at the start, you choose your traits, you give your character a name, and then you have to very basically describe like a couple of sentences of who your character is. And you'd be like, oh, I'm David, I work in TV, and I this sort of thing, and I'm yeah. But then the other character has some like physical attributes or some attributes about you that they give you and they choose for you, being like, I think you've got like, slightly wonky nose, and he's stoned and he's short and he's muscular. So right from the start, it's basically a case of like, it's kind of, this is the crazy thing about this game, right? It's kind of a half collaborative role-playing game about a relationship. And if somebody tried to get me to sit down and said, hey, we're going to play a collaborative relationship role-playing game,
goodness.
I would not do it.
Yeah.
But within this framework, it's fascinating and amazing fun.
Well, the main final dark piece of the puzzle, that this game, which also, by the way, has the best tutorial I might have played in any game ever. It's similar to Friedman Fries's Fast Forward stuff, whereby you read a very simple page of the manual, you start playing, and as you work through the decks, you occasionally hit tutorial cards, which teach you how the game works. It's the smoothest, fastest, most fun way to learn a complicated game I've ever experienced. So already, that's the level of design we're dealing with here. So eventually, as you're a while into the relationship and you're making each other breakfast and going to dinner and encountering problems, or not, depending on how your game goes, it introduces destiny cards. And this is the darkest and most interesting part of the game. Because you start with a hand of 4 cards, which are like ways that you could conceivably be happy.
Yeah.
Are we going to be like absolutely and genuinely loving to one another? Are we just going to be equal partners where it's fair? Or are you going to dominate me? Like, thin ripple of laughter, and we laughed as well, but also it's like, if you are an adult and you talk to people about experiences, that is something that even if you haven't experienced it, you'll know that friend whereby they have less power in the relationship. They are dominated by their partner. And it works for the partner, maybe it doesn't work out so well for them.
Yeah. And it's this weird, distant thing of, when we started, we thought it was about role-playing the characters, but in the manual, it's very clear that you're role-playing together with the story. And that's what it feels like, because it was kind of like, I remember with our first game, and it was David and Barry, and it was like, my character was a bit of a dick. He wasn't awful, but he was insecure and he was cocky, and because of that, it meant that whenever things happened, it was like, well, this is the choice that gets me the stats that make my character most happy about themselves, which is kind of ostensibly your aim in the game, is to try and make it so that you as a character are happy with your life and who you are. But then once you've done that, you then maybe try and work out what the other player is going for and try to help them get there.
Well, so this is the dark thing. So you start with those 4 destinies of all the different ways you could be happy, and then as the game gets closer to the end, you have to voluntarily discard one. So you go, we're never going to be gentle together.
Yeah.
That's just not going to be an option. Let's put that away. But this is done secretly.
Yeah.
So I might have gone, I'm never going to be gentle, because I might look at my traits and be like, oh, I had domineering as one of mine or something. I'm controlling. Oh, no, manipulative. That was
Yeah.
it. So I knew I would never be gentle to him. So I threw away that. He might still be working for that.
Yeah.
Like, it was...
But it was also the fact with the Destinies thing, it's like, it was a weird thing. It was like both people discard a Destiny card, and you look at it and you're like, and the fact you hold a card in your hand that says like, you know, unrestrained affection, what was it? Undying affection or whatever, like
Yeah.
genuine love, basically. And the fact that you have to, then you just go, is this relationship between these two fictional characters we're working with ever going to result in genuine love? And you go, no, discard.
There is even, as you play on later, it's possible for relationships to end in marriage or breaking up or actually darker stuff, which I don't want to spoil. It's also got expansions coming, including a paranormal expansion.
But yeah, we had a thing where basically in our first game towards the end, it was, I found like it was quite melancholic because it's this weird...
But are we going to talk about the middle?
Go for it.
Okay, so it was sad. We were trying to find our place for the first chapter, and in the third chapter it all fell apart. But in the second chapter, we had some moments where we went out for dinner, and unexpectedly, in the list of options, it's like, this is going to be something else we won't agree on. We both chose something romantic, and it was like one of the sliders was something to do with not sincerity, but it was
It
gentleness.
was gentleness, yeah.
And we suddenly discovered that these two characters, who were both loud, who both had sort of brash personalities, whatever it was in a combination of our cards and the destinies we'd chosen, we suddenly found ourselves clicking.
Yeah.
And then I played a card from my hand, which was like romantic cabin getaway, which doubles the effects of the next card. Because obviously, who here's gone on holiday with someone and it's a lot of pressure because it's going to be really romantic. And that can go well or badly. But so then we had this romantic cabin getaway, and then some card came up to do with, then we went out for like a dinner or had an argument, and it was, but we kept hitting the gentle options, and it was like,
Yeah.
and it was, for a moment,
Yeah,
it was so romantic.
It was this rocky relationship.
People are laughing, and we were crying laughing, but also like, do you remember that card where it was like, where do you see, it was like the do you want to have a kid card, so it's like, it's just the discussion, it's like, do you see yourself in 10 years with a kid? And we
my word.
and we both flipped the card, which was like, yeah, in 10 years we'd have a kid, and Matt and myself didn't laugh. We looked at each other and went,
just nodded quietly as if to go, yeah, I'm really, like, we both feel like maybe we want kids, and yeah, it was the first time we had that conversation, and yeah. And it was just like, and then we were just so sincerely nodding as if to go, that's great. And then we just fell apart laughing, because it was just like, what is going on? And, but then
should we move on to...
well, I mean, I just want to say it was sad in the end, in the fact that like we had this rocky start where we were like, you know, we kind of had this idea in our head that maybe like, you know, you were a drug dealer, I was a TV star, maybe I wanted someone a bit rough on the side, a bit of edge. But then it was like I was insecure, and for a long time I really hoped, especially in that bit in the middle where our characters seemed to be like, oh, maybe this could work. But then it's like we kept disagreeing, you kept being less and less happy, and my character kept being like an asshole.
Well, there's a...
And then because basically the idea of the game is you want to be as happy as, well, you want to do as well as you can and try to make the relationship work. But then at the end, it's about you play a destiny card and there's criteria and you see if you did it or not. And you played like equal partners, being like, that's what my destiny is, we can be like equal partnership. And I played dominant. And basically, like, I needed to be in control and to be happier than you. And I won. And it was like, oh, this relationship carries on, but it's just a bad relationship.
Yeah, and like the darkest part in it was you can play reaction cards. You can play, no, I meant cards where it's like you both reveal the chips.
and it goes wrong.
No, but really I changed my option because I do agree with you. But I got one of those that worked similarly, whereby because I was so desperate to have a level of, I think all I needed was to feel that I was jealous as well, and I was gunning for equal partnership.
It's right.
Man, all I wanted was to feel like an amount of respect and love, and you were so much happier than I was that in a particular round we were like going out and having a night out, and I had played the card Crocodile Tears because it was an ability for me to lower his happiness. So I was crying to try and make you feel sorry for me, and it was like pathetic. And Matt chose the option, which was like, "Oh, grow up." And my happiness went down even further, and it's like, oh my God, because he was trying to be dominant, but we didn't know that.
But the thing that blew us away, and this is why after we finished, I then sat down and played another game and had another entirely different relationship.
Oh, this was so funny.
With Ben, who's out here with us, and we played
Let's
till
talk
1 in the
about
morning.
Sharon and, what was it, Thomas?
Sharon and Thomas.
Oh.
Sharon and Thomas were a mess from the start. Like, they were... I was Thomas, Ben was Sharon, and they were childhood sweethearts, and I was kind of like spiritual hippie-ish guy. I was a chef. I was very happy-go-lucky. I was impulsive, and Sharon worked in banking, and she was quite uptight, and she was quite stressed.
What Matt didn't know is that two very important archetypes of Ben's personality was that, or Sharon rather, Sharon was conservative, which changed a lot because conservative versus spiritual led to some unbelievable. Should we talk about the two cards? What am I thinking of?
Yeah, I don't know what you're thinking of.
Oh, okay. Very early on, like your high school sweethearts, you're sort of like, there's a new destiny because there are multiple scenarios in this. Frankly, it's because it also has the white design. It's like time stories, but like you're exploring a timeline that's actually interesting. Oh, come on. What, we got zombies, asylum, medieval night, like Egypt, like, I'd rather be in Thomas's world. Because, so early on, it's like you've left school, and you have this new destiny, which is like finding out who you truly are. And so, and my point is that there are chapters and expansions and sealed booster packs in the box, so which add new cards to the decks, and so in yours, it was trying to find out who you are.
Yeah.
So that manifested for Thomas by quite early on playing a card, which was, hey, Sharon, do you want to watch this erotic video together? And Sharon immediately is like, no, that's disgusting. And it's like, yeah, that's what I thought.
That's horrible, yeah. That's horrible. And then the next card Ben played as Sharon was, what are you thinking about? And on the options was just sex. And I was just like, sex. And she was like, oh, I thought you'd be thinking about this. And it's just like,
no, he thought you were thinking about option D, something sad.
Yeah. It's like, no, well, sort of. And then I had a follow-up, and I played another card, which was like, hey, going for a nice walk? I haven't seen anyone around here, actually, and the grass seems quite soft. Maybe we could, fool around outside? Do you want to have sex outside? She was just like, no. And then it was just this...
But there were echoes of that later on, like, because then you'd explore the relationship, and there was other hilarious stuff. Like, you had that breakup in your history where you picked two options where Sharon was like, do you remember when we broke up for like 5 minutes? And Thomas was like, I thought it was 5 years.
Yeah, there was a lot of misunderstandings. And I mean, early on, though, there was an element of sadness to it, but also realism. And the fact that in this chapter, one of the first questions it asks both characters is like, are we in this for the long run? Are we like really, how do you see the relationship? And it's like either like, yeah, I'm 100% committed, we're absolutely in this for the long run. The other one's like, well, I think we just need to be true to ourselves and see how it goes. And we both chose that. And it was like, that's a sensible thing. But it was also slightly sad. And the thing that really just blew my mind about this game, and found me like thinking, this is just actually genuinely one of the most exciting games I've ever played, just because it's tackling a topic, an area that just I haven't even played like video games that have done it well before.
There is no video, hey, board gamers, look forward, if you love board games, there is no video game on Earth I have played that explores relationship this well. No. And Matt and I work still in video games.
Yeah, the mechanics, literally the mechanics of the game were just a reflection of the reality of relationships. And it meant that actually it's a game that was, even though it's 2 players, it's really fun to spectate.
Oh my goodness.
It's basically
you can easily play it with 3 or 4. I had almost more fun watching than I did.
Like when Thomas and Sharon.
Okay, Matt. It's
Thomas
okay.
and Sharon, I knew them. Like I don't know them, but I knew them. They were high school sweethearts. They had nothing in common. They weren't right for each other. At the core of their relationship, they had a real problem. They did not have a sex life. It was a real issue. But the thing about this crucial is, before that, David and Barry, they were like, they never seemed to agree with each other, but there was chemistry, right? They had nothing in common, but there was chemistry. Whereas with Sharon and Thomas, they had nothing in common, but whenever it came to an important decision, they both kind of agreed on the same thing. And they were like, so there was no problems in the relationship. It was always like, yeah, we kind of...
It was pretty smooth.
It was smooth, but wrong. And it's like, I know these people. Like, it's like... and this is the reason it's a grown-up game, right? Is the fact that like, if you're a person who has had relationships or has had friends with relationships and seen all the ways that relationships can go slowly, subtly wrong or work for one person, not the other way, and experience the joy of when things work or the melancholy, but also it's like you're eavesdropping. It's like you get to have that conversation about your friends, but these friends don't exist. You're like, you were there being like, Sharon and Thomas, there's no way this is going to work. This is a nightmare. Like, what are they doing together?
Yeah.
Like, we gave you a name. I was calling you Terrence. I was just like, screw you, Terrence.
Every time I made a comment, and like, this is gross. We would immediately assume it was a Facebook comment. And it's like, I thought I blocked you, Terrence. Yeah, here's the thing though, like it's a board game where when we say like adult, like it's not even a board game that I consider that I would have enjoyed if I was 18. It's like, this is a board game for like people who are 25 and older. So also, let me just throw some stats out to you real quick, not stats, but facts out to you real quick, because people are like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
So we went over to the booth to talk to designer, I have got his name somewhere, Jacob Jaskov, who's Danish. And I was like, what's your background? And he works in, and as, like for his day job, behavioral design and user needs. He's actually worked in Big Pharma, which means something very different in Europe than it necessarily does in America. He was like working to make sure people take the drugs that they need to do to stay alive. So like, this Fog of Love is a board game that came from a guy whose job it is to make sure people take their insulin, for example. And yet, the story behind this game is that this guy who studies psychology and philosophy owns 1,000 board games, but his wife didn't want to play any of them. And the really interesting, and so honestly, he was telling us, like, this is a game I made for a focus group of my wife. And but the fun thing he was saying is that if you study literature, everything is either the action is outward focused or it's inward. And if it's outward, that tends to be like, sci-fi, fantasy. It is literally every board game on the shelf, except for potentially role-playing games. This is inward, focused on personalities. It is what you find in quote-unquote literature. So that's what this is, and it was 18 months of work, and he's poured his heart into it, and now Walmart have picked it up. It's a huge deal. What else were we going to say?
I mean,
I'm just reeling.
I was just blown away by it, and it had really funny moments. Like we had a moment like towards the end of the game with Sharon and Thomas where like, again, like Thomas had been a dick, but it was a different sort of thing. Neither of them had been perfect in the relationship, and it was just a bit of a mess. And then it turned out there was some weirdness where, because we didn't know that you were supposed to keep drawing cards up, I didn't have many cards, so I had a kind of left field thing where I was suddenly like, even though we were high school sweethearts, I was like, oh yeah, by the way, I've been married before. And also I have a baby. That was another card that came out. And it was mainly, that was like not the fault of the game, we just weren't drawing cards. And so I was like, I guess I'm already married. I don't know how that happened as out of high school. Well, we've been apart for 5 years, so. Things happen. Sharon, if you're gonna, is Ben here? Ben, are you here anywhere? I'm going to presume you are somewhere. Thanks, Sharon. Don't leave me alone for 5 years. Of course I'm gonna,
it's okay, Thomas. It's okay.
Anyway, there was a point where it was like, she kind of like forgave me. We had a card which was literally like asking for forgiveness.
No, but that was dark, man. Because she forgave you, but like, the way that skewed the stats on the board was like, I forgive you. And it was like, oh, no good will come of this. Because like, at that point, she disliked you so much more. The only way she could have won is like, domineering or equal
actually, that had a
partnership.
thing where it's like, if you chose I forgive you, then you had the choice to take the destiny, which was not currently in this game, take the dominant card and add it to your destiny thing.
Change what they're playing
to change the
for.
relationship and change to be like, okay, I forgive you, we're going to carry on this relationship, but I'm going to be in charge of it now, which is,
we're just reeling. Like, honestly, we thought that us talking about Fog of Love would be funnier for you guys, but I think all we're able to do is just a fuse.
The one thing that made me really laugh was the fact that I had this thing of being like, when I said like, look, I want your forgiveness, the outcome for me when I was forgiven was I had to change one of my traits. Like I had to be like, all right, one of these traits is going to go away, and I'm going to draw up a new one.
And you discarded.
And I discarded spiritual randomly, so I was no longer spiritual. And you were like, because you were like, he was spectating to the point that he'd stood up and walked around the outside table so he could look at my cards. And he went, oh no, because it's like...
That was such a core tenet of who you were.
But then I kind of like, we were so into it at that point. It was like 1 a.m, and I was like, I kind of ran with it. And I basically gave a little spiel, because it's weird how you do not start playing this game role-playing at all. But then as it goes on, increasingly the cards just say, tell the other player about this. And it's really vague, and you make it up, and you just do. But I basically was like, look, in the past, I've been a person who's maybe not taken responsibility for who I am, and I've always thought about like, higher forces and this idea of everything happens for a reason, and I think it's time for me to stop doing that, and I need to accept who I am, and I make mistakes, and I need to own them. And so that was me not being spiritual. I drew up 3 cards to replace one of them. I had to choose one of them, and 2 of them were, it's this idea of like, I've changed. Now I'm hypocritical. Or what was the other one?
Oh, it was hypocritical, like bitter.
Bitter. And it was like, in the end, I found there was a third one was just, like a person who believes in right and wrong. And I was like, okay, I'll say that. There was this idea of like, I've changed. I'm not like that anymore. Now I'm hypocritical. We were just like, but the thing was, the one thing I had about this where I was like, is this the sort of game that you play a couple of times and half of the joy is reading the cards for the first time? And I was sort of torn between that, but I had this realization that like some of the cards, when you picked them up and looked at them, just had us laughing or reeling or going, oh my, no, this is like too much. But then I thought about it, and one of the cards which really got us was a trip to IKEA. And I thought about that, and I was like, you know what? Even though this is specific, this is something that you can play with over and over again, because every relationship has a trip to IKEA. And it's always different, and it's almost always bad. And I just kind of realized that, yeah, even though these are really specific things, in our relationship compared to the relationship I had with Sharon, it was totally different. And it's just like...
It is even a game that will teach you maybe a little bit about how to be a better person, because one of the only ways on the IKEA card that doesn't result in you both losing like for each other is like a specific quote, which is, you know what? I'm sure we can find something that we both like. Let's just relax and take it easy.
That was good, but the only one which was safest was for one player to say, whatever you want.
Yeah.
If one player said, you know what, whatever you want, it was fine.
But then you have to change the slider, and you become more pliable. It's like, no!
There were some cards in there that were actually really manipulative as well, and we didn't go near that because none of our characters felt like openly mean, but some of the stuff was literally like you could, because the traits that you have to do, some of them are like, by the end of the game, you have to get your determination high, but sometimes it was determination of the group high.
Yeah.
And so if you have a situation where in the relationship this happened randomly, you get the sense that like you're both going for a thing that is opposite, then the only way this relationship is going to work is if you change that person. And there were cards, I think one of the cards that said like putty in my hands.
It's horrible. You get the opportunity to name one of the traits, like, I think you're trying to be disorganized. Like,
I think you're too disorganized, and you need to change.
And if they're correct, then you give it a clean slate and they lose that trait, because for the rest of that relationship, you're going to be dogging them about that one thing.
And it's this thing of like, is that cool? Is that not? And as adults, it brought up some in-between, like it had me thinking about a lot of stuff. It has talking about relationships. It had us being like, rolling our eyes as if to go, yes, this is just a thing for everyone.
Yeah, we should wrap this one up for the podcast at home. We're going to be doing a Q&A after this, but people will be free to leave. But yeah, just to end this, we'll say it is so fantastic this doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
Just to find a board game which teaches us, not just reminds us why we love the hobby, but makes us so excited for the future of the hobby, because this came out of nowhere. This came out of a guy in Denmark pouring 18 months into a game trying to please his wife. And it's like, well, what's going to happen next year, next month, next week? So yeah, big thanks to Jacob and everybody. Probably it's going to be very difficult to go and play Fog of Love because, like we said, it has a queue. However, it is going to be increasingly available across America and Europe over the next few weeks. And you can look forward to multiple expansions in 2018, one of which, as I say, is a paranormal relationship. These are big expansions.
I think one of the last, because it has like sealed packs in the box, one of the last boxes in the base box, one of the packs was just called We Give It a Year.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just like, oh.
But, you know, if you want something cheerier, one of the boxes next year coming is Fight with the In-Laws. And there's a third, I forget. But yeah, he's planning on supporting it, and the sales are going really well. Like I say, it has a Walmart exclusive. So yeah, big thanks to Jacob. And you can expect the official Shut Up and Sit Down video review in January of next year. Thank you very much for listening to the Shut Up and Sit Down podcast, everybody.
To follow on from Fog of Love, would you play with your wives, and how well do you think that would go?
Yeah, that was the thing, actually. I was talking to Ben, who I played, me and Sharon, and I was like, this game's amazing. I want to play it with my friends. And I was like, would you play it with your partner? He's like, I don't know. No, I don't think I would. It's,
It
would be dangerous.
It would be like having a really awesome picnic in a field where 200 years ago they planted landmines. It's like, this is great, this is lovely, this is good.
Yeah, that's bang on.
Hello there, sir.
Hi. I wanted your recent review for Marco Polo struck me because you said it was a really good game 2 years ago. And I wonder how retroactively that affects some of your older reviews. Do you find that problematic? I wouldn't expect you to re-review anything, but does that change the response to them?
How do you want to...
Well, I think reviews are like a fixed point in time. They are a purely subjective pinpoint, and it's especially difficult. Especially we do a lot of digital stuff as well. We also run like a smaller thing that's a bit more sporadic called Cool Ghost, which is video games things. And with video games now, it's like, when do you cover a game? When is it done? Or when is it best? There's no answers. So you have to just accept that it's like it is when it is.
We certainly can answer that. Of course, our opinions on games change, but they change for different reasons. So, for example, I don't play the Resistance anymore. Obviously, I'm sure most people in this room have played the Resistance and had lovely games of it. But, you know, they all tend to go not the same way, but similar ways, which means it's less entertaining. That doesn't take away that it's a great game. So
Also, you have games that take those mechanics and put them into new things in more interesting ways.
yeah,
So
like
it's-
Mysterium and Dixit.
But then it's like, you know, we might not ever go back and re-review stuff, but we might. There might be points where we look at a game and we think, you know, we reviewed this 10 years ago or whatever, and it hasn't changed, but it's still actually really relevant and it's like almost worth re-upping that.
The
to point
only
out
thing that we can say is that while we won't be re-reviewing stuff or like making a public database of times we think we were wrong, if you do listen to the podcast, if you are on the site enough to see like top 10s and recommendations, the games we really like, we'll keep talking about, like Twilight Imperium or Cosmic Encounter, like, I don't know, Werewolf or whatever.
Well, if you do want a list of all the times we were wrong, you can go to reddit.com, and it's exhaustive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello there, sir.
Hi. I have a little bit of a story, and I swear there's a question that goes along with it.
Okay.
You did a review not too long ago about Condottiere.
Condottiere.
And I loved it, and I'm like, I need to have this game. Discovered it was out of print, sadly, and
Yeah.
that it was much more expensive. A week after you posted that video, I found it at a flea market about 30 minutes from here for $5.
$5?
So, unplayed, and yes, and my gaming group loves it, so I appreciate the recommendation.
Dreams can come true.
Yes, as was proven here. So I have a two-part question. One, was there any reluctance, or is there reluctance to covering an out-of-print game in a review, knowing that some of your audience might not have access to it? And can you recommend another out-of-print game that I can find cheap in about a week?
What did we learn? There's a fun thing about Rainer Knizia's modern art. It's not out of print, but there's a weird thing. People can shout out and correct me if they know the country. I believe it's Norway, but there was a Norwegian toy company that was like, yeah, modern art is going to be the best. What the fudge is that? Modern art is going to be like the next big thing. And they printed like 800,000 copies. But of course, they're all in Norwegian. But the thing in Norway is that like this incredible Rainer Knizia auction game, arguably one of the best auction games ever made, is like $3 in every thrift store in Norway, which is a story I like. First part of the question, we don't cover out-of-print games, or we try not to. Condottiere, the example you're thinking of was like a how-to-play video, which I kind of just did because I was annoyed that it fell off the face of the earth. Another game I'm annoyed fell off the face of the earth is Mundus Novus. Oh, there's an out-of-print game you can buy. Wonderful card game, Mundus Novus. It's a set collection game about trading, colonialist theme that's now probably tired and problematic. It's about conquistadors. Oh, actually, though, the manual does tell you all the ways they died.
That's nice.
That's something. If everyone doesn't
Yeah,
know
it's,
why I'm being mean
covering-
about conquistadors, then history books are available.
Fair, fine, yeah. No, it's covering stuff that's out of print. It's kind of tricky because obviously, like, if you're in the hobby and you keep an eye out stuff, you can still find things. But you know, it's something we struggle with. But we always try to walk the line between being like covering board games for people who know about board games and are interested in good new ones, and this idea of like, what happens if somebody who's just maybe heard that board games are cool, and their friend says, hey, go to this website, and they land on our front page, like, how often are they going to have an experience that's of any use to them whatsoever? And especially things where it's like, hey, this game's great, but you can't buy it. It's kind of like, like, you know, it's.
I mean, even now, believe it or not, when we have the time and ability to do it, if we're really going to recommend a game, we will sometimes talk to publishers and be like, how many copies of this are in existence?
Yeah.
Because like sometimes I check stock and it's like, oh, it's available everywhere. In truth, every shop has one copy. So like 21 people buy it after the review, no one else can buy it. And it's like, oh. That happened with Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective for years.
Yeah.
And I was like, I speak to the board game distributor in the UK routinely to get copies. And they were like, yeah, you really screwed us with that one. And I was like, ha, 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 yeah. And they were like, no, really. We're getting our phone. Yeah, so it's really tough. But yeah, that's what we do. We do our best. Thank you very much.
Hi,
there.
guys.
We might
Hello.
start speeding up questions a little bit from our side, but you guys can talk for as long as you want.
I'm a big fan of your video reviews. Thanks so much for coming. I especially loved your tutorial on introducing games to your friends.
Oh, I need to redo that.
It was really great. One thing that surprised me when I first discovered your videos is just your different approach to video reviews, and that there's not necessarily a clearly defined start-finish. It's a little bit more freeform and focused on the experiences you have in game, and I love that a lot. And I was just curious about what has influenced your approach to doing video reviews and how it has evolved over time.
Well, for you, it's mainly Top Gear, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is tragic. So people might know Top Gear, the car review show. I believe it's streamed in America as well. It's not any good now, and it's massively problematic. But the way they do car reviews, I watched a lot of it because I find it very entertaining, even though I don't like cars. That's when I was unemployed. And they are able to make car reviews interesting to people who don't care about cars, who have never owned a car. And it's like, if that was the perfect format for Shut Up and Sit Down, it's like, people who've never played a board game, what does a board game review look like? So Top Gear is just kind of like, tries to give you the most for your time. It's like, what's happening in this minute? Is it entertaining? If they're talking about the car, then it better be twice as entertaining. And that's also where the mid-review turnaround comes from. That's Jeremy Clarkson, if people know him. Horrible man.
He's awful, yeah.
He literally does, I learned from him, like the thing where, you big a game up, you big a game up, you big a game up, and then, but, and you're like, oh no, it's a bad car.
Put the car in the bin.
Yeah. But also Jeremy Clarkson is where you get like, it's like, I love this car, I love this car, I love this car. Has no soul though. And then you're like, what does that mean, Jeremy? And he's like, I'm gonna tell you. I think, well, of course they all left Top Gear because Jeremy Clarkson hit a cameraman, is that right?
He's a producer because he was told he could only have cold food. So he punched him. He's awful. I mean, the thing, the other thing as well is like, I think the only other thing from that is the style has evolved and changed, basically based on not exactly like feedback, but in terms of us increasingly understanding who it's for. Like, I think I say to people a lot is when it comes to conventions, one of my favorite things is meeting families where like either the mum or the dad was really into board games and loved watching the things, and then the partner was like, I don't really watch it, but I half watch it and you guys are funny. And then the kids just love the dumb jokes and the dumb faces. And they're like,
oh my goodness,
they like the egg stuff. And
yeah, we've never, this is a crazy thing that we're learning that will change I honestly wanted to change our output in 2018, but we've had, at this point, 4 or 5 really young girls. Like, we've never had a young boy come up to us and say I'm a fan ever. No. But we've had 4 or 5 young girls come up and be like, I like your reviews. I really love the lunchtime egg stuff. It's like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, that's how we change. Like,
so it's a thing of trying to appreciate that like we are, and I mean again, it's funny. It's like sometimes we get people like, especially we joke about it, but when you've got very vocal people in the board game serious community who get frustrated with our output and our style, it's like, well, I kind of care more about like 9-year-old girls than I do them, for lots of reasons. But yeah,
thank you very much. Hi there.
Hello. You guys have talked a lot about how you're more excited to see storytelling in games. And I think there's kind of 2 ways this is happening a lot, where people are throwing more booklets and cards and things for you to read, and also in things like Fog of Love that you're talking about, where you have different like prompts that have a sort of emergent property. You get to see your own creations or whatever. So my question is, which of these things tingles you a bit more? What are you more excited to see more of?
Okay, well, I would say that when it comes to like storytelling, it's absolutely, and this is why designing board games is so hard. Like, storytelling is perhaps even a confusing word, because in terms of outside of Fog of Love, my favorite storytelling that's happened at the con so far was Matt losing his mind playing Plums, and it's like,
I literally got up and walked away and knocked over a chair. And I was joking, but also my brain was just like,
so Matt was really struggling with the game, and he kept, because in Plums, you put down cards, and then it's like, oh, I want this card, and another person puts down a higher card, and then takes your card, and you're like, no, I needed that. And that happened to Matt like once or twice. Then it happened in a 3rd time in a way that someone had to play.
The only good card I had, and he'd already taken it once, and I'd taken it back, and they took it again, and I was just like.
So Matt stands up, physically knocks over the chair, and starts walking away down the hall as my friend and I are crying, laughing. And that's storytelling as well. That's a basic 1, 2, 3 joke setup. So it's not really about, I don't think, storytelling. It's about having an emotional response, or like, I mean, it's people like, okay, so the guy who designed Fog of Love spent 18 months studying love and storytelling and romantic comedies and the structure of romantic comedies. Like, that's the kind of thing you do to have to make a game like that. 18 months. I haven't studied for 18 hours, So it's like, I
think when people say storytelling, they think writing, and that's a problem. And I think that's all I can say, really. It's just like, you know, it's we see a lot of games trying to tell stories, and actually a lot of the way they do that is by like getting you to read things, and it's just fundamentally wrong. So really it is just a case of like, it's all about the game mechanics. And yeah, you can have writing within that, you can have reading within that, but if reading out things isn't a part of the game mechanics that's in an interesting way or changes the tone of it, I don't know. Like, I mean, there's not a lot of good storytelling in games, and I kind of think that the ways that people are trying to do it are just so out of, like, so just the wrong direction that it's like, I'm kind of just ignoring it, and maybe people will start to like really nail it in the future, but for now,
I mean,
it's like,
games do routinely nail it, but it almost seems like, not accidental either, but it's like fragments of a big picture that we're only going to be discovering over like 20, 30 years, whereby board game academia becomes a thing.
And often, as you know, we find it's like the stories come to life because you inject into it, you inject yourselves into it as a group, you want something to be there, and you can conjure it up, and that's cool. But again, that's why like something like Fog of Love really blew us back, because we were just like, this is clever. Like, this is not us doing this is not us being like, oh, relationships. It's like, this is like, yeah.
Oh, I found out. You know the 6 sliders in Fog of Love?
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, sincerity, gentleness, creativity. Those are the 6 sliders used in the most current and modern psychological models.
Yeah.
Like, it came from a psychologist going, well, if we're going to model personalities, it's not like 6 sliders, which you assume are a game mechanic. It's like, no, this is science. Like, that's how complicated what we're dealing with is. Anyway, so yeah, in answer to your question...
Thanks very much.
Thank you, sorry.
Also, Hanamikoji is one of my favorite games. Hanamikoji, one of my favorite games.
Oh, wow, we found someone.
We've got our answer. Do you want this chocolate onion?
You can take it away today. No, he's sitting down. Wisely.
It's a bad joke, I'm sorry.
Hello there.
Hello. Thank you guys again for coming. We appreciate you having you here. I was thinking about your review of Fog of Love with Jacob. I just want to know, what was the result of his case study with his wife?
Oh, I don't know. I think she likes it. You'd hope.
You presume he wouldn't talk about all that if it was like, yeah, it didn't work. It was a disaster.
He did say something interesting, though, which was that, like, she can watch Netflix with him, even though they watch completely different shows, because he likes sci-fi and she likes, you know, romantic comedy, presumably, because that's what he told me. I don't mean to pigeonhole this poor woman who we don't know anything about. But they could do that as a relationship because they could take turns, essentially. So I would like to think that if that is true, if what he told me follows through, then in addition to her being able to play Fog of Love, which he designed for her as a labor of love, then presumably she will also be not just enjoying Fog of Love, but also other things, because...
She'll play Twilight Imperium.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Can love bloom in the galaxy? Yeah, we don't know. You can go and ask him yourself. I'm sure he'd be very curious. Thank you. Hi there.
Hey, so this is a little less insightful than some of the other questions.
It's fine.
But, so you guys do critical reviews from time to time, and so presumably you get a little bit of pushback from that. If so, what's the funniest pushback you get?
The funniest?
I mean, like, when it gets to the point of being funny, it's usually just, like, a bit despairing as well. Mm-hmm. And it's usually when you have people just very matter-of-factly saying, oh, well, actually, and just outlining, like, things as facts that you just think, where's any of this come from? It's just nonsense.
We've talked about this candidly before, like, the negative reviews that we have to do, partially as a service, partially because you need to provide a kind of a palate cleanser, which doesn't mean we throw games under the bus, but it's useful for us and our audience to be like, no, we don't just like everything.
If we play something and it's really popular and all the reviews say it's great and we play it and it's still really popular and it's still getting that hype and people are still going to buy it and we play it and we think it's not good, then we kind of feel like, just for the people who watch our reviews or read our reviews and usually agree with us, it's kind of an important service, we feel, especially as a crowd-funded site, to be like, actually, we don't think this is that good. Unfortunately, though, it is the one part of our job that does feel a bit like a duty, because we'd never like doing it.
Well,
we don't want to do it.
Here's the thing. When Paul published his side review, which wasn't even, this is a bad game, he was like, I think there's too much in here. I don't like it as much as other Euro games. I think it's too long. The comments on that led to him losing energy and passion for his job for multiple months, to the point that Jamie Stagmeyer, designer of the game, I was talking to him in an email by something else, apologized for the fans of Scythe because he knew what it was doing to us. Like, the comments get us through the day. The comments are what let us, before we flew out here, I pulled an 18-hour work day getting the Twilight Imperium review done. And you can work for long hours, but working for long hours and being passionate and laughing and making jokes and being a professional and perfectionist, the comments get us through. So when comments go negative, it is awful. So like your question is like, it's a good question, and I would ask it myself if I was in your situation, but the truth is like, no man, it's never funny.
It's not fun.
It's all
No.
awful.
It's
We
just
talked a
like-
little bit about this at Shucks.
And we did, yeah. And it's just like, even I occasionally just try and pop up and be like as level-headed as possible. It was like, on the TI4 review, like it was a positive review, and like there's areas of the internet that usually don't like us were like really happy, but then there were some people being like, some people very commonly just saying, it's a bit unprofessional of them to review this game, as they were paid by Fantasy Flight to make a documentary, and like so it's a conflict of interest there, and it's like we made this documentary, and it's kind of sad about the state of the industry and the fact that we made this documentary because we think board games and the board game industry is awesome, and we want to reach out to new people, and we do this in lots of ways, and we thought if we can make a really fun, exciting, interesting thing that showcases the industry and this epic game and the history, it might get some new people interested, or it might be something that people who play board games can show to their mum and be like, hey, this is what I'm into, add a sense of legitimacy.
To clarify, Fantasy Flight didn't pay us.
No,
we should add.
we just thought we can afford to do this because we're crowdfunded and we can do whatever we like. So it just meant that I was out of circulation a lot more for 6 months, which meant Quinns had to do a lot more solo reviews and stuff. But then it's funny how like we realized that lots of people are just like, yeah, this is paid for, but also like it meant that like within the industry, within the board game industry, not a lot of the rest of the board game industry even promoted it, because they thought it was advertorial automatically, because everybody just does advertorial, and it's like we don't want to throw shade on people who do that, but it's kind of sad now.
It's the only viable business model for lots of people who want to do it for a living.
Absolutely, and that's fine. But the fact that it's so endemic now that whenever anyone makes anything cool, anyone's like, well, obviously it's being paid for. It's just like, that makes me a little bit like, so that's as close as it gets to funny for me. Frankly, it's like, really, that people are so cynical that they just can't believe that something cool would exist for no reason other than people wanted to make something cool. That to me is like, yeah, that's comedy, I suppose.
Thanks for your question.
Sorry, a bit heavy, but yeah.
We have 8 minutes left, so we're going to do like a minute for you guys and then anyone else who would like to come up. Hello there.
Hi. First off, just thank you. Welcome to Philly, and thank you for everything that you guys do.
The city's awesome. It's great.
Thank you. As if I own it. Being such a positive force in the hellscape that is 2017. But given travel and everything, you've been to Essen and all over, have you noticed any differences in play styles or preferences based on different cultures or where people are from?
Ooh. Play style and preferences based on like country? Or like where you
Either where the convention or whatever it is, or their culture that they come from, or anything like that. Like, do people in Essen play different than people at PAX Unplugged, or?
I've embarrassingly still never been to Essen.
Well, Essen, as we are informed, is basically a huge shop.
Yeah,
it's very difficult to actually play games there. And because Shut Up and Sit Down doesn't trade on being first, there's not a lot of sense in us using donor money to go there.
Yeah.
What I will say, I think Canadians and Americans tend to be, I don't know, I don't have an intelligent answer for your question, but I tend to have more fun playing games with Americans and Canadians. So, yeah, you guys can feel good about that. Britain is great. People just are less outgoing, and that is partially true of Europe as well. And it's especially true when you get to Germany. So, like, with the Shut Up and Sit Down style of, like, playfulness, enjoying, like, making fun of people, it's more pleasant to play board games.
There are cultural differences as well, but it's hard to pin on why. I mean, like, I think when we go around like the UK Games Expo and stuff, it's like a lot of the kind of smaller companies that are just like, this is my little prototype, this is my little thing, tend to be more Euro focused and much more kind of like mild and being like, it's a cooperative game about natural disasters. Whereas here, like a lot of the people who are like small companies making things, it's like pirate zombies fighting robots, and so it's like a lot of the American stuff tends to be kind of come from a more trad fantasy or video game style inspiration, whereas like German style or like Europe area tends to come from like maybe a more Euro, but then it's like board games and Euro games have been huge. So I think it's like there is cultural stuff, and it's interesting.
I mean, I guess the way to put it is like we're all aware of like Euro games and Ameritrash, but it's not like. But those styles didn't emerge for no reason. So you can extrapolate from the kinds of games that arrive in different countries, like the play style of the people in question.
I've said it so many times, but like Ian M. Banks, The Player of Games, is a really interesting sci-fi novel that kind of touches on the idea of like, are games a reflection of the culture that they come from? And like, if you understand a game, then do you understand the culture? And I think that's a good read.
So what we're saying is, now we've played Twilight Imperium, we can take America back.
Yes!
Philadelphia!
It's time, Philadelphia, we're back. The English Revolution starts now.
Sorry, we have answered questions for too long. We're going to motor through the next few. Hello there. Hi. Hello.
Hi, Quinns. Hi, Matt. I wanted to ask you both about... closer. Thank you. I wanted to ask you about board games that come with a mobile companion app. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? When do you think it works versus when do you think it doesn't work?
How well made's the app? You know, I think
It's fine.
it's fine. I think the sky is falling of mobile apps is crazy. Like the people who are like, every time we cover a game with a mobile app, someone in the comments is being like, nah, I won't be able to play this game in 80 years. It's like, you were never going to play that game in 80 years anyway. You're not going to play it next year. Like, let's be candid.
There's a thing that Rob Davier talks a lot about, in the fact that people always say that they want a game so they can play hundreds of games for 20 years or whatever, but in reality, the stats just say it's not true. People play games 2 or 3 times and then they get something new.
Mobile apps can be good, can be bad.
Mostly they're not that good because people who make board games are not coders.
However, the Alchemists by Check Games is really good, obviously, because if people haven't played Alchemists, it's really difficult and very interesting and probably not necessarily a game we'd say, like, run out and buy it now. But punching answers into the app to have the app tell you if you're right or wrong is like, oh, even if you've made the potion before, it's like, you're still petrified. That's a great example of an app working well. So yeah, we got to blitz this. So thank you very much for the question.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. Speaking of Davio, are you guys interested in the Betrayal Legacy that was just announced a couple days ago?
Betrayal Legacy.
Yes.
Yeah. Davio took to Twitter and said that he was working on a Betrayal at Haunted House on the Hill Legacy version.
Sure.
Okay.
Someone needs to make that game so it makes sense. I mean, it's great, it's fun, but like they announced the standalone they announced the big reveal with the new box, and I was like, oh, they're doing a new edition that like won't be weird and bad. It's like, no, it's the same thing again. It's like, great. I love that game, and I will play it and enjoy it, but like, oh my goodness, it's so weird. And give that game to Fantasy Flight. Let them like hit it with hammers and then put it back out in a way that we can recommend, you know? So if the legacy version of that is good, then awesome. Great. Good for Rob. He's good at that kind of thing. Hello.
Hey, as someone who's watched a lot of reviews, I have a lot of games at home. And so when I finally get 34 people, I'm wondering if you guys have a process to figure out what kind of game you play whenever you get a group together. Obviously, you do this all the time, but when you actually have the freedom to choose what game to play, how do you know? Because there's so many great games.
It's like wine pairing for like strange goblins or something. You have to know your friends. And actually, like one of the key things I've learned is don't let your friends choose if they've not played the things, because if you just give them the boxes and let them choose, they'll just choose the box they like, and it might not be at all what they want. So best thing to do is just be like, well, you know, I made a mistake recently. I tried to play
Imperial Settlers.
Imperial Settlers with some friends of mine, 2 guys who I played Imperial. What's it called? Imperial, we're losing it now. Imperial
Assault.
Imperial Assault with. And I was like, Imperial Assault?
Hey,
Imperial
board games, why are you so imperial?
Yeah, like the same. It'll be like the same word. No, it was awful. Like, they just love hitting stuff and shooting stuff, and I respect that. And I just tried to make them do a little Euro thing, and they just sat there being like, what's going on? Why is Matt making us do apples?
My own personal technique is to walk around my living room in circles for upwards of 15 minutes. And then my wife comes in and goes, what are you doing? And I go, it's fine, we're just going to play this. And then she leaves the room and I walk around for another 15 minutes.
That's what I do.
It works great. Thank you very much. 1 minute 43 on the clock. It's gone quick fire. Sorry for you guys.
No problem. I'll make it quick. So I'm actually a very recent convert for the guy who asked 2 ago, right over there. So this is a very quick question, very silly one, and it's unfortunately about a game that's long out of print. Have you ever played Wise and Otherwise, and did you enjoy it, if so?
Wise and Otherwise?
Yes.
Never heard of it, I'm afraid.
Okay, it's just one we had at college, and we managed to get 2 copies. Well, we got 1, and it left after someone graduated, and we somehow got a 2nd, and they still have it, and I've never found another way to get it. It's like
probably why we've never heard of it.
Yeah,
if we're honest.
It's like Dixit, but with more about words and phrases as opposed to pictures.
All right.
Sounds
well,
good.
we've got 54 seconds, so we might. But I'll keep an eye out for it. I'll let you know.
Hello.
All right. So I think people have asked way too many serious questions. So Matt, over the course of the videos, your hair gets larger and smaller.
Yep.
Is it affected by the moon? Does it have tides?
Yeah, it's the passage of time. No, it is. It is affected by my mood, actually. If it's big and fluffy and fun, I'm usually in a good mood. If it's very short and sharp, I'm usually a mess.
No, the mood. Does it have tides?
You know cockatoos, where like they express themselves with them.
As humans, we all have tides. is actually a real answer, unfortunately, but yeah.
Thank you. Hello. You have 13 seconds. Let's go.
I was just wondering what video you most enjoyed putting together.
Oh, it's a great question. We're going to ignore the clock. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Dr. Panic.
Oh, you mean...
No,
Dr.
Looney
Panic.
Quest. Looney Quest, where we got to be the dads with the beer. Looney Quest was so much fun.
I'm already thinking of the Fog of Love video. I think probably the answer for that is like, I think we're going to have more fun putting together the Fog of Love video. Not just like this in January, I hope, because not only is it going to be very funny, like it's one of those rare occurrences where we get to like... The cool thing about doing comedy is, and British comedy knows this, and now so does American comedy because you guys have really caught up recently. No, it's true. I'm so proud. No, like, if you do a funny thing and then you go real serious, it hits twice as hard. And so if we get to do a Fog of Love where it's like, ha 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 ha, let's talk about our marriages. Like, it could be great.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I have fond memories of some particularly mad moments, but we tend to, like, aside from every now and then when we're both so tired that we have to do it and we just plug through and just get the energy, most of the time when we meet up and film, we have, like, a lot of fun doing it. And, yeah.
I hate that Dr. Panic was pretty good.
Dr. Panic was pretty funny.
We put up the review of Dr. Panic, people were like, why did you cover this? He's like, here's a party game you haven't heard of. It's not great. But, like... We so want it. Do people know Dr. Panic? It's like this, a few people, yeah. So like, it's like surgery, but like you have to do like needlework on a big cardboard thing. You have to fill syringes with like nebulous juice. You have to run magnifying glasses over each other. Every so often, the app plays like the heartbeat flatline noise. You all need to run to the middle of the table to a whoopee cushion and perform CPR on it. And it's like, this is goofy, but like, half of it is honestly really clever. The other half isn't. So it's like, but...
It was Looney Quest for me with the being drunk dads, just having a plastic baby in cans of lager. And I think we decided to open the review by saying like,
oh, hello,
it's family time, cracks open a beer. I mean, that was one where we were like, are people is this going to be too much? Like when we're kind of swinging around a toy baby, are people going to be like, this is not good?
You have to, we do like...
We walked a line.
We have to do the weirdest head checks now where it's like with the Twilight Imperium video that just went up. We had Matt as a lion, and I wrote a joke where it's like, and now, because there's a lion race in Twilight Imperium, it's like, and now this all stand for the national anthem, and it's Africa by Toto. But like,
when he said that, I was like
yellow lion face paint with this like child's mask.
And I was like, had the gloves, and I stopped, and I was like, is that okay? And I kind of probably had to double take, being like, is that problematic? But I'm like, no, I'm a lion. Like lions do live in Africa. It's fine. But then you were like, it's fine, and I was like, yeah. But then when you were editing, you had the same thing.
I was like, wait, is this? Like, it's so weird. Yeah. But we like to think we have a bunch of fun. Thank you very much for your
last question. Thank you very much.
Oh, hey guys. I got a nice short and sweet question for you.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you from here, I'm afraid.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say, what's up?
Not much. There's this thing called PAX. It's all right.
Yeah. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much for coming, guys. Really appreciate it. And we might see some of you guys later.
Oh, yeah.
And we won't be on the stage. We'll be like on the same level. It'll be much less weird.
Thank you.